Yeah. What's, I feel like this has got to start. There's only one way this can start.
How's that?
Welcome to Boston. Welcome to the East Coast. We live in Boston. Here. Why don't we go down to Harvard? Nailed it.
Oh boy, that's great. It's awful. I hate your your Boston accent because it's just New York. It's just New York.
Hey, I'm from Boston.
Oh, you sicken me.
Woo.
You absolutely sicken me. Welcome everybody to this episode of The Chamber.
Yeah, chamber. We're chambering.
The Chamber. I suggested this film, The Departed.
How's your mother?
She's on her way out.
You all are. Act accordingly.
Why, you ask? Because I live in Boston.
That's
That's
it.
it. That's it.
Is it the best Boston film of all time? Is it the most Boston film?
No, Good Will Hunting, I think, is the most Boston film.
My boy's wicked smart.
Really?
But I think it's close. I think so. I think, my personal opinion, I could be wrong. Boston fans, tell us in the comments, but I think, when I think Boston films, the first film that comes to my mind is Good Will Hunting, which we should probably do that episode at some point. But this, I think, is up there.
This is it for me.
2?
You asked me
I think it's 2.
Boston movies, I think of this.
Yeah. Not The Town. I think people will probably maybe put The Town in there too.
It's never gonna be me and you and your sister and Shine fucking playing house up there. All right? You got it? Get that in your fucking head.
I mean, Town's great. Town's got to be top 5 now.
I love this movie. I'm coming out hot. I think this is Scorsese's best movie. I don't love, all of his films just in general, just from like my personal taste. Not that I think they're bad by any means. I respect what he does. They're just not my taste. But I really enjoy this film. I really like it. That's where I'm going to start. I really enjoy it. Ev?
Yeah, I also really enjoy this film, and Scorsese is such a fascinating filmmaker and such a fascinating director, and has such a fascinating filmography, and has so many like highs and lows built into his style. So he's just really interesting for me to talk about and dissect. But I have always been prone to saying that this is my favorite Scorsese movie also. I mean, I'm not gonna argue it's his best. I don't think it's his best, but I think it's my favorite maybe.
What do you think his best is?
I think it's hard to not say it's Goodfellas, and I think from a filmmaking standpoint, it's hard not to talk about Raging Bull.
I'm gonna smack you again. Throw it again.
It's enough. Enough.
And Taxi Driver.
Well, who the hell else are you talking? Talking to me?
I think those two and Goodfellas are probably his 3 best in some combination.
I would think the popular opinion would have been Taxi Driver. That would be my guess. I
think it's Raging Bull. I think Raging Bull is his highest regarded, like critically acclaimed film. I think. I recently watched that a year or two ago.
Less critical, but just like generally popular opinion.
Then it's Goodfellas.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean Goodfellas is for a lot of people like the defining film of like the early 90s. Like that movie was everything to a lot of people, and totally
people love it.
Colored the way that it led to The Sopranos. It led to the way that we look at a lot of mob culture and entertainment.
Yeah. Scorsese himself has shaped the public perception of Italians single-handedly.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with it. I'm okay. As an Italian, I'm fine. I'm
for
fine
better
with
and
it.
worse, or just mostly for better?
Mostly worse, because we're not all fat slobs who just eat pasta and.
Good, but you gotta have the pork.
Oh, that's the flavor.
Kill people.
And point at things.
Kill people with piano wires.
I know a guy about a thing.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. That's what. Speaking as a non-Italian, that's what we want all of you Italians to be.
Yeah, and it's his fault.
That's how I like my Italians.
Let me tell you how I prefer my Italians. Yeah, this is 100% Scorsese's shape. He has shaped the brand of Italians.
Yeah. But so here you are describing his non-Italian gangster movie as perhaps your favorite.
Let's not cry over spilled guineas.
This film has always been, not always been, as someone who, I saw this movie once I was living in Boston, because I'm not originally from Boston, originally from New Jersey, where other fat Italians live.
Is that all you deadbeats do over here is talk about coups?
Well, we're not planting potatoes. Welcome to the Garden State. You want a drink?
So when I came up here, it was interesting to see it living in Boston, and now watching it this time, living in Southie. The places they're discussing are down the street from where, Whitey Bulger's bar is 2 blocks from where I live, and this is loosely based on Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It just adds another layer of color for me as I watch the film. So it's fun.
It was probably my favorite of his. Yeah, it was before I moved to Boston. I lived in Boston for like a year and a half, 2 years. And it made me like it more because you feel like it captures such a vibe, I feel like, of that city and the energy, and it's cool,
The accents.
The what?
The accents.
Yeah, well, that's something we can talk about. There's a lot.
I do want to talk about the accents.
Yeah.
I do.
But, when I lived there, I lived on Charles Street. Right there.
Yeah, I do love that street. It's a great
street. That apartment was great. Terrible apartment itself, but that location, it was just the greatest. Had a window that just overlooked the center of Charles Street right there, half a block from the Commons and the public gardens, and right around the corner from Cheers. Like, it was just like the place to be. I'm grateful for that all the time. But there's the alleyway right next to the little, what do you guys call them out there? Parkies or Packies or what are those?
Packy.
The stores?
The Packy.
The weirdo. It's a convenience store.
I can't do the accent.
It's a little market for normal people. And there's a couple on that street, but one right at the end there's an alleyway right next to it, and that was where they shot part of Leo's scenes. I found out later, where it's like, I'm just walking by this alley where they shot The Departed.
Yeah, where I want to say it was when they were talking about You're a Cop.
Of course I know how to spot a cop.
How's that?
If he's not paying attention to us, he's a cop.
That's on Charles Street.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, really,
That's
really.
right on Charles Street.
That's one of the things I like most about this film is just like the general vibe. This film, and I think a lot of Scorsese's best work. I think similarly about Goodfellas and other movies. Like it just the world building and the vibe and the I'm just in. There's a lot of pros and cons of the stuff he does once you're in there, but maybe no one else is as gifted at building a world for you to inhabit as a viewer.
You're 1,000% correct. Might be his biggest strength as a director. I hate to say the cliched phrase as, the city becomes a character in this story, but you can feel the presence of Boston in this film and in most of his films. Like his New York films, you can feel New York.
Yeah.
In his films, you can feel the East Coast represented, which is awesome. I feel like you can feel when films are disingenuous and inauthentic. Since we're talking about Scorsese, I wanted to mention one other thing that I really like about the directing of this film. And I'm not well versed enough on his, whole, catalog of films. I've seen a handful, but not all of it, and I'm no expert by any means. So I don't know if this is like a trademark of his or not. The two things that really stick out to me in the directing sense is he has a lot of pronounced movements. They're not subtle.
Yeah.
Throughout the film, it's like I'm moving this camera and it's going here, and you know it. And for whatever reason, I like it. And I feel like in a different movie, for other directors, I could be like, it's distracting, it takes me out. I can hear myself arguing with you about it. But in this film, with this style, it feels very purposeful, and it makes me feel closer to that environment. And to piggyback off of that, there is a lot of jarring cuts. There's a lot of jarring music, like stoppages. He does it a handful of times throughout, like the music, and then he'll be like, and someone will yell, and the music will just like cut out, and it's like, and I lost my leg. Billy. It's jarring. It's abrupt. It's not. it's uneasy
Yeah.
in a way that adds to the fact that like I'm on edge this entire film. Nothing is safe in this whole film, and I think it's deliberate, and it sets a huge tone for the film of like trust nothing and trust no one, and I don't know what's safe.
Yeah.
And I think the directing and the editing and the pacing of the film really speaks to that. Maybe not the pacing, but you get my point.
Totally. I agree. I agree completely. I think his style is so pronounced, and almost anyone else, if they did the same things, I'd be like, fucking hack. Like, you know, but for some reason.
It's weird.
Yeah, Scorsese is like, you know, going in that you're not gonna know what to expect. Like, I feel like in most Scorsese films, anything is possible, stylistically, story-wise, anything, and that makes it sort of more of an exciting experience. I think one thing you can always say about Martin Scorsese is that he swings big. He takes big swings, big chances. He just tries things. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's so beloved. And I think we talked about this a little bit, I think in our Shutter Island episode, like his style inherently brings with it a lot of what I would, if I may be so bold to call, like mistakes. Like I see errors in his films, like errors that shouldn't be, you would think, in like a big film like this by such a renowned director, but it's because he's just like trying shit. Like if someone has an idea, he sees like the kind of guy that's like, yeah, let's try that. And sometimes that pays off in a huge, amazing way. Sometimes it's kind of distractingly bad, but it all makes for such a fascinating, unique viewing experience that I think is part of why he's such an iconic, probably the greatest living director. Like he's just phenomenal.
You can certainly make a case for it. It is weird the double standard that he somehow has risen above in a way, because the things that he would try and do, and that winds up in the film, like that green screen of that rat at the end of the film to jump to the end is bad. It's like I look at it and I can see the outline around that rat, but you know, stuff like he's such a story-driven guy. I think you've said it before, and I think it's accurate. Yeah. That he's like, you get it. I don't care.
It doesn't
like,
need to be perfect, because what matters is the feeling you feel.
Yes. And the feeling is correct. The feeling is exactly what it needs to be. Yeah. He's not great with effects. There's like he's almost kind of famously bad. Where I gave the example of the explosion in Casino, where it's clearly a mannequin, like it's the most obvious cut in the world. I think The Irishman has such famously bad de-aging effects. This movie, I think, has a couple, like when they throw Martin Sheen off the building and like the blood explosion that comes up is like really weird and kind of like there's a lot of things like that where you're saying the green screen rat, like it's like it's just not a priority. It don't matter. It's like it's not a priority. Yeah. You kind of love that about him. It's weirdly endearing. Yeah, and it's just weird that he gets the benefit of the doubt, and if I make that movie, it gets torn apart because it's like, this is garbage. Like, how dare you?
Well, that's not why we would say that. That's not the only reason.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the specifics here. So we have an amazing ensemble cast, which always excites me. Great list of talented actors.
Who do you think performs the best?
Matt Damon. Hands
I would
down.
put him third, and he is great. I think this is such a high level of performance, and I think he is great. That is not to sell him short, but I think Jack Nicholson is the engine to the film.
Well, I mean those are two different things in my mind. Like, he may well be the engine, but that doesn't mean he's the best performance.
You don't think so? You don't think when he kills a bug and like licks it and eats it?
What the fuck is that whole middle part? That's Scorsese at his worst. Just like letting Jack do wild shit. It's like, let's do some coke scenes with orchestra music, and he's
love
like,
it.
It's great. It's super entertaining.
It's great. I believe it. I wrote in the little notes that I take during the film. I go like, I think this is just Jack Nicholson's life. Like, I think he behaves this way.
But that's why I don't think it's a great performance. Like, he does fine, and Jack Nicholson is amazing, but he's just kind of being like wild Jack Nicholson. He's not he's not embodying a character, so to speak.
This ain't reality TV!
It makes, I don't know, I guess you could make the argument, I'm gonna argue the other side of it, is I think it's those, I don't wanna say nuances, but those little character things, like.
There's no nuance.
He's nuts.
That's the wrong choice.
It's those traits that give him a personality that is distinct and is memorable than just like a crime boss. Without him throwing coke and being weird and licking bugs and like his eye rolls and his facial performance throughout the film, like
I got a sticky.
Yeah, that stuff. Like it makes that a more real character, because if you don't have those ticks in there, then who is he? He's unhinged, and I think that is. Maybe I'm giving the film more credit and I'm giving his performance more credit, but I view it as these are tells that lead me to the end where he is ignoring Matt Damon's request, like, you don't need to be part of this, where he eventually dies. Because before it, when he's licking the bugs and he's doing rat, he's like, I don't need the money. I didn't need the money when I was 13. Like, this is all part of this, like...
Yeah.
Like, we're learning that this guy is just kind of unhinged, and he almost wants to get caught at this point.
I haven't needed the money since I took Archie's milk money in the 3rd grade. Tell you the truth, I don't need pussy anymore either. But I like it.
He's just... The thrill of him getting caught almost seems like the priority for him. You know, like, let's just see how long I can do it and how egregious I can be with this shit. Fuck it. I'm just going down. I'm going down. I don't need it. I'm just doing it because it's who I am. Those ticks make me buy that end more, if that makes sense.
Sure. I don't know. I never read that deeply into it. Like, I think it's a great time. So I'm not even saying they shouldn't have done all those weird things that he's doing, because it's great and it is super memorable, and it's now looking back like one of Jack Nicholson's final performances. So like, yeah, go out on top and have a great time and just like be a great fun part of this movie. But you're not gonna ever get me to claim that that's like a really high level performance.
I just love his performance. Maybe I should say that. I like his performance the best. And I love Leo in everything he does. I think he is maybe the best working actor. Personally, I think he's just fantastic. The three of them make such an entertaining film.
Well, yeah, and don't sleep on Wahlberg, because I think Wahlberg does great for his role, just coming in and being like a Boston prick.
Yes.
But while you're talking about this, maybe it's a good time to talk about the accents real quick, because your two best performances do maybe the worst accents in the whole movie.
No, Vera. Yes, Farmiga. Vera Farmiga. Was that her?
Farmiga?
She from Up in the Air. I love her, and I think she is a good actress. A
Talented,
great actress.
beautiful woman. Love Vera.
Talented, wonderful. She is great. Her accent just...
Well, they all do. Jack doesn't even try at certain points. He just randomly,
and I don't think he has to.
Will drop his R's like maybe once a scene. He'd be like, "Yeah, go to the car."
What could I use you for?
And you'd be like, and then the next he'll be like, "I said to go to the car." Like, and Leo gives up halfway through the movie. Like, he's not even doing it anymore at the end.
Yeah, none of them are great except for Wahlberg and Damon.
Damon seems the most natural and real.
Fucking queers, firemen getting pussy for the first time in the history of fire or pussy.
Correct. But I think Wahlberg does a good job too of being in his character, and his character's a little over the top.
Yeah, no, it checks out.
So his accent can also be over the top. But everybody else it's tough.
Yeah.
When it comes to Vera, she's the one that I heard the most, just kind of like whenever she felt like it.
Oh, you know, if you lied, you would have an easier time getting what you wanted.
What's that say about what you do for a living?
I just think we should have a few more meetings before we even talk about prescriptions.
Look.
Yeah, I mean, accents are tough in general. Not everyone can have as perfect of a Boston accent, especially as I do, me and Matt Damon. But
friends,
I do think
old friends, these two.
Yeah, but it's funny to open this episode talking about Departed versus Good Will Hunting, because that's the conversation, that's the argument we were loudly having when we looked up and saw Matt Damon on the roof next to us. and he avoided eye contact like the plague. Because we were in mid screaming, Good Will Hunting is his best performance. The Departed is his best performance. And he's like, what the fuck did I just walk into? We remember you, Matt. We know you remember us, more important.
You definitely remember us.
Come on the show.
We're burned into your
Come
brain.
on the show, coward.
I dare you to come on this show.
Well, you tell us what was your best performance. I think it is The Departed, and I remember it's because his performance is so good. I just think he's so great at being like kind of weaselly and shitty, but also he's like genuinely charming in that dinner scene when he first goes on a date with Vera. I think that's like some of his best work he's ever done, where he's like, if that dessert moves, I'm gonna shoot it. You know, like just that really charming, friendly stuff. I just think he's so good.
Some of the best acting in the film, and maybe in his career, not as a whole. Good Will Hunting is his best performance. That fact, 100% fact. But in this film, the best performance I love every time, and I feel for it every time. I've seen this movie like 3-4 times maybe at this point. It's long, it takes me time, but I really enjoy it. Is in the elevator after he's been caught by Leo, and he says a line like, "This is gonna be fun." Like he can't drop the macho act.
I can't wait to see you explain this to a fucking Suffolk County jury, you fucking cocksucker. This is gonna be fucking fun.
And he takes a beat, and we just sit there in this elevator, it's slowly going down, and then he goes,
"Just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me."
And he changes, and my heart just like not breaks because he deserves it, but it's like I feel his hopelessness in that moment, and because he's given up the bravado, he's given everything up, he knows what's happening, and it's over for him. And then in terms of the film, I absolutely love the next moment Leo gets shot in the head, and it's like everything changes. Everything changes at this moment. Like I love that last like 15, 20 minutes of this film. There's a roller coaster that you go on that I think is some of the best emotional ups and downs that a film could ever make me feel. It's amazing, I think.
I think that's interesting because I equal parts agree and then question, because I'm not going to say I disagree with that, because I think I've liked it more the more I've watched it, where it's like, okay, yeah, I've watched this movie, I don't know, 12 times, 24 times. Like I have really liked it over the years. But like, I remember the first time I saw it, watching it in the theater and being so shocked, obviously, when Leo dies. But then I started to feel like it was kind of getting out of control. Like they didn't know how to resolve the story. So we just had everybody shoot each other. And like, that felt kind of cheap to me, where it's like, okay, like we've done all this expert stuff, and now we're just, he shoots him, oh, it's a surprise, oh, another twist, he shoots him, oh, it's another twist, I bet you didn't know there was a second guy in the operation, another mole, oh, another twist, and then Mark Wahlberg shows up at the end to shoot somebody. Like that's just how we solve all the problems. And so I'm not saying
that's how you solve most problems.
I'm not saying I was right to feel that way, because as I said, as I've watched it more, I start to appreciate that more, and it's certainly like incredibly memorable and unique. But it does. I mean, it throws you off, and I guess that's usually a good thing.
I love the position it puts you as an audience member, because you're rooting for Leo the whole time, and he kind of does it. He like, from an audience standpoint, you're like, it's over. Matt Damon has accepted it. He's got him in cuffs, so you have that little sense of like, I've seen my hero win, and then you're left with this, oh my God, now what? Now what moment? And I love that position it sort of puts you in. I'll liken it to another great director in Hitchcock, when I felt the same way when in Psycho, after the shower scene, that was, the woman is the main character for 40 minutes of that film, and then she dies.
What?
Spoiler alert for a movie that's 60 years old. After the most famous murder scene in the history of cinema, if you haven't seen it by this point,
can't believe you just spoiled Psycho for me.
She dies, and the movie's not about her anymore. The movie started out to be about a bank robbery, and her trying to get away with it. And your protagonist dies, 40 minutes into the film, and now what? Now you're left with, where do I go as an audience member? I don't know what to do. And I think it's always stuck with me in Psycho and in this film. I like it more in this film, to be honest, than Psycho, because it's closer to the end of the film. It's like it gets resolved.
Yeah.
It's that, last scare of like a horror movie type thing. Like, we're not done yet. But it then resolves itself fairly quickly after that. And we still get to see our villain lose by a guy we didn't realize was kind of a hero the whole time in Mark Wahlberg. So I love how it ends. I can see people not liking it, but I think it is a nice bow. I do. You can personally not like it, but from a filmmaking standpoint, I think all laces get tied at the end of this film.
Well, yeah, you snuff everybody out. that ends everybody's story. So for sure.
No, but in a satisfying way. I think it's a bittersweet ending, but satisfying because the resolution happens the way that like you don't want Matt Damon to win. You don't want him to get away with it. So he doesn't. But it doesn't win in the your hero doesn't win in the way that you want him to. So it's bittersweet. And I think it resolves itself in a creative way. That's not just like bland and like, oh, your hero won, everything's great now.
Yeah.
So I respect the film for doing that.
Yeah.
Long-winded answer, I'm sorry.
No, it's unique and memorable, and that's what you hope for. That's what I hope for from films, if nothing else, literally. So
it's interesting to have your good, it's Face Off. The movie is Face Off because it's your bad guy's your good guy, your good guy's your bad guy. You kind of lose track of who's good and who's bad. And I think that's ultimately the point of the film is, to your point, and everything that you like to say is there's good and bad in everybody.
Well, we either grow up to be cops or criminals, but if you're looking at a gun, if you're staring down the barrel of a gun, who cares? What's the difference? Kind of that to me is the theme of the movie.
That is the theme of the movie. And it's one of the better shots of the film. Like it's explicit. He comes out of the shade because you don't see Jack Nicholson at all. Like he's silhouetted for all of that as his introduction, and then he comes out and delivers that line. It's so pronounced, as I said before. Like it's so pronounced, but it's great. I think it's great.
Do you think it could have been shorter? Do you think there's stuff you could have cut out of this movie to make it a little more?
Sure, with a fine-tooth comb. I don't think it needs to. The short answer is no. I like it the way it is. I think most of it needs to be in there. But if I really thought about it, sure. I'm sure I could trim it back. But I wouldn't take whole scenes. I wouldn't take
all the microprocessor stuff and meeting the Chinese gang and all that stuff.
But I kind of think you need. Sure. Again, if you go through a fine-tooth comb, I think overall, I think you need it to continue to establish that they're getting closer. The cops are getting closer. Things are heating up within this. So you feel the pressure from Leo and you feel the pressure from Matt Damon. Like you get pressure from both sides and you need those close encounters as we're getting closer and closer and closer. I think the story is, what is it, 2.5 hours? It's not 3 hours, it's not 3.5 hours like some other Scorsese films. So I do think you need some of that time to continue, that pressure grows over the course of the film, which I like. Because that's, I think, the underlining emotion that you feel from this film is like pressure. You feel it closing in.
Steadily building,
from both sides.
Yeah.
What's gonna give? What's gonna give?
I love the sort of like duality nature of the story where you have like these two guys infiltrating simultaneously, almost in a race with each other to figure out who the other one is fastest. Like I think that's a really good concept, a really good structure for a story like this. So I love all of that. I kind of always want, not for morality purposes or for my own personal taste, but I always kind of want Matt Damon to get away with it. Because I almost think that's more of an interesting theme, which is like, this shit is real, and the like people at high levels of law enforcement like that do corrupt shit. And like that to me is almost more of an interesting story that now this guy who was raised, his whole purpose of his life was to be a rat, a cop, to infiltrate the police, the stadies, climb up, become like the inside man for this Whitey Bulger type criminal underworld. But now all of that's gone and you've taken out everyone who knows. And now he's just gonna live his life as a cop? Like that to me is almost more interesting than this Mark Wahlberg showing up at the end to get the heroic moment.
I think that's more of an interesting movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I'd want to see that. I'd want to see that sequel.
Yeah, that's the only way a sequel would work too. I saw a footnote on Wikipedia. A script was written for a sequel, which is like everyone's dead. Like
Everyone's dead. Yeah, that's an interesting sequel to see. Like now, what does he do? Does he go just be good? Or like because it's all over for him, and he can morally find a positive area in his life, and he wants to right those wrongs, or does he just start a new crime syndicate? Like that's an interesting.
That's totally
for the sequel.
Like that would make this movie a great prequel to this guy's story. Like what a great character development we've now set up for like this guy's morality.
Yeah. So yes, but with no sequel, I like this version better. If there's no sequel.
Yeah, I got a shout out. I can't remember the actor's name. His cousin. His cop magnate cousin. I think his first name's Kevin. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Monique always loves that guy because he plays a character named Goon.
And you'll always be Goon.
Goon, Goon, Goon. And that's what I'm going to call you for the rest of your life.
In a movie she liked back in the day called Buffalo 66, which I'm not a huge fan of. But Goon is in everything. That guy's great.
He is in that character.
He's perfect in this movie.
I liked his Uncle Jackie better.
Jackie was all right.
Uncle Jackie was excellent.
A question for you, as someone who knows everything about law enforcement.
Thank you.
Is it even plausible that an agent would be? Where are you going? Oh, hello, hello, officer. Have I been a bad boy?
Weird direction to take that.
I don't know. I can't think of someone as a cop and not be a stripper first.
Yeah, well, why do you think I have this?
Exactly. Is it even possible for an agent to be undercover and literally no record of him, like only one person or two people knows that he's even a real cop, and he's so vulnerable in that way because it'd be so easy to just delete him, and like, there has to be a safety net for guys like that, no?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure. Like, I would imagine that like your everyday cop at a police department, you're not able to do that. But if you start getting into more specialized agencies, then for sure. I mean, you think about like any spy or anything like those people. There's no record of those people. Like, not that Mission Impossible is like an extreme version of that, but it's that kind of thing where it's like you'll be, if you die, you'll be disavowed. We'll terminate all knowledge of.
Sure. Someone being like, we don't know publicly who that guy was or whatever. But for this whole premise to work, it's the, he deletes his file and like, you never existed. You were never a cop. Now you're just some scumbag on the street. Like, that just seems too easy. And so like, I would want more of an insurance policy that the government or whomever, the police department, whomever, the FBI, is aware of what I'm doing, that I'm not just some now criminal who's going to go away for life because I've done all these bad things.
Yeah, no, I
just can't imagine that being a real thing.
I would think that's a real thing. Like there's some issues around the specifics of how it's executed towards the end of this movie with like him just being able to delete the file, but there's like a folder on the desk. And I mean, there's little convenient, easy stuff happening there.
Yeah,
but
he was in Anthony Anderson, like people saw him in the thing. Like they've all acknowledged him at this point, right?
But after that, he went to jail and got kicked out of the academy and all that stuff. So I bet you that stuff is totally legit and totally real, where it's like, look, for this really high level stuff, like if Frank Costello is really Whitey Bulger level, like we need you to go to prison for a year or two to make this seem believable. And that's one of the reasons I think they target Leonardo DiCaprio, because he's such a burnout.
Right.
Like he has connections to the area, but he has no like living family, but for Goon.
Right, he is the perfect. Like I get that these type of things exist. I just find it hard to believe that there's two people on Earth who know you're part of the government, you're part of the police force, or you're part of the FBI or whatever. And then if those two people are dead, like
you hope
you're just a criminal.
Get hit by a bus or they're walking to lunch.
Yeah. Like you just become a criminal. You go from working for the police to being a criminal who's going to go to like that's crazy to me.
People going undercover is wild shit. Like that is, I have nothing but respect for that.
Could never do it.
That aspect of a profession is just like, wow. Like you're an actor, but it's life and death. Like it's fucking life and death, and you're an improv actor. Like that's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing that people do that. Okay, so my next question to you is, do you think this movie did it deserve its Best Picture win?
Who was, I want to say yes, but who was nominated, who was the field?
So 2006 Best Picture, 79th Academy Awards, we're looking at. He also won for Best Director.
And the Oscar goes to Martin Scorsese.
It says other nominees were Babel, Letters from Iwo Jima, Little Miss Sunshine, and The Queen.
So yes.
That's not a great lineup.
It's not a great lineup.
It's not a great lineup.
I rewatched Little Miss Sunshine recently, and I really did want to do an episode on it.
That movie rules.
that movie is crazy. I think that movie is crazy just at how successful it was.
Well, it's great. It's like almost perfect.
We'll do an episode on it.
Okay.
I like it. I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to shit on it. We should do an episode on it. To go back to this, yes, it deserved to win.
Yeah, I guess it did.
Field,
I thought I remember thinking it didn't at the time but I think that's only because it's not his best movie. And it felt a little like a makeup Oscar where it's like, we finally got to give Scorsese one. But I'm looking at this competition, not great. I mean,
both can be true though.
When's the last time you heard anything about Letters from Iwo Jima or The Queen? Like I don't even. I think Iwo Jima's a Clint Eastwood movie maybe, and I don't even remember what the Queen was. Those movies are not particularly.
No, this movie is better than all of those movies.
All right, so I guess Scorsese deserved it. I guess I don't get to have that hot take. Glad he finally won. He deserves more than one. Jesus.
All you need is one. That's all I want. Just one.
I've always wanted one from every category the same year. Because I wrote it, I directed it, I'm starring in it, I edited it, I produced it, might have shot it.
You know what I love about you? How realistic your goals are.
You love him?
It's a pretty serious relationship, yeah.
I don't love the love story. I don't love it. I don't think it's. I think it's a little convenient. I think it's a little convenient
that they're both involved with her too.
They're both involved with her, and it's an easy way to have like a connection between these two, and have information like relevant to one another. It's just very convenient because what are the odds? What are the odds that they both go to the same shrink, or I don't know.
They're connected enough.
Yeah, they're connected enough. I don't know if it's. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary for them to both sleep with the same woman.
Yeah.
You could still get to that end point where he ruins their marriage, with that audio tape or whatever. Like, you could still have that.
Yeah.
They don't need to have romantic information. He could just learn about his wife.
That's true. I think they could cut out most of Leonardo's interactions with her, if not all, really.
Yeah. He could just learn about their relationship. Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't love that scene where she seems like a shitty therapist.
Great. Why don't you just give me a bottle of scotch and a handgun to blow my fucking head off? Are we done here with this psychiatry bullshit?
You know what? You can
leave.
leave.
What the fuck did I just put myself through? I'm fucking out of here.
She storms out. I'm like, fine, here are your drugs.
Yeah. But I don't like this.
Yeah. So, do you want to go to lunch?
Yeah. You trying to fuck?
Yeah. I always thought it was funny when he comes into her apartment and she's like packing up, and he's like, I know this is inappropriate, and she goes, no, it's fine. You're not my patient. It's like, well, you're engaged.
Yeah.
I think that's the inappropriate.
It's inappropriate
part.
on several levels.
Yeah, it's not. That's not the thing we're talking about. It's inappropriate because you have a serious boyfriend.
The best part of this movie is literally. I mean, I love all of Alec Baldwin. All of his character interactions are great. Like this like smart Alec-y guy. Like the Patriot Act. I love it. Like that shit's funny. But the funniest thing is when he's golfing or whatever at the driving range, and Matt Damon comes in and he says something about like.
Marriage is an important part of getting ahead. Lets people know you're not a homo. Married guy seems more stable. People see the ring, they think at least somebody can stand the son of a bitch. Ladies see the ring, they know immediately you must have some cash and your cock must work.
Yeah, it's working. Overtime.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm very glad to hear that. Like, it's just like that, like, manly, awkward, like, yeah, we're just shooting the shit, talking about fucking our wives. Like, it's just that energy is just, that's an endless source of comedy for me. I just think that's so funny. It's working out right. Overtime. Like, cool, man.
Great. You have sex. Great. Good stuff.
Yeah. Great. Great. Glad
proud
to
of
hear
you. Yeah. That's 2006. I was starting to get phased out, I think.
Too funny.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, consider subscribing, liking the video, sharing, getting alerts, looking us up on OnlyFans, you know, whatever floats your boat. We love you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.